Some of you met him before, but we are very fortunate to have Russell Harlow with us here for class today. I first met Russell, and I have lots of interesting connections, but it started off when I met Russell. I knew his brother actually before meeting Russell for quite a long time, who was
That's
also
right.
a clarinet player when I was in California.
I forget about that.
Yeah. So I've known the Harlow family for a long time, but I came to the Utah Symphony in 2002, and Russell was the associate principal clarinet at that time. He has since retired, but we had 10 years, 12 years together in the orchestra.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
At least. It seems like forever, doesn't it?
It does. But anyway, Russell, I think of him, he's a great friend, an incredible artist, and one of my teachers. I've learned so much from working with Russell for all of that time, and even more afterwards when he so-called retired. He stopped playing regularly in the Utah Symphony, but has done so many amazing things with his playing and with chamber music, and he's incredibly curious and always looking for the next thing and not satisfied with, well, this works and I'm doing it, and to this day still finding new and better ways to think about the clarinet and to explore it. So it's been an incredible privilege for me to know this guy. I'm really delighted that you have this chance to hear him talk about clarinet even for 45 minutes, and hopefully you'll have another chance to hear more of what he has to say. But he's got some interesting things or ideas, I think, to open up for you today, and I'm really excited to be here with Russ Harlow.
Well, that's a lot to live up to. Thank you, Lee. So where to begin with this? This is double lip is something that some really great players have used. Who has heard of, let's see, John Yang, double lip player? Who's heard of Harold Wright, double lip player? It's John's teacher and mine also. Who's heard of Ralph McLean? Anyone? Who hasn't heard of Ralph McLean? Lovely. You need to get to know him. I have a website called Clarinet Central, and if you Google that and go to it, it starts out with Ralph McLean. Ralph McLean was Harold Wright's teacher. Okay. Now, double lip is something that few people relatively few people actually do. And I found that in studying with and meeting with people who played double lip, that they had not done a lot of analyzing as to what exactly you have to do to play double lip. So I found myself sort of in the dark. It was in 1973 that I started, or two, that I started playing double lip, because I came up here to 7,000 feet or 5,000 feet from Los Angeles, and it was really difficult for me to play. So I switched over as I was playing in the orchestra, which I don't recommend too many people doing, because it's kind of tough. But I was playing second clarinet at the time. I could hide. I could hide myself in the orchestra, which I did very nicely. So what I'd like to start out with is your impressions. Could we go around? Who's played? Who has? You have not. Who has played double lip here? All right, tell me what your impressions are and how you feel about it. What's good? What didn't you like?
For me, I like double lip because it teaches you not to bite. You can't bite on the mouthpiece when you're doing it. But I find for my anatomy, because I have bigger lips, it's harder for me to do. But I practice with it if I notice I'm biting or squeezing, and then I switch back over to single lip.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your main. And
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say about it?
I got introduced this year to it, and I really liked it, but it's hard for me because it's really new, and it's I don't like. It feels like I have less control overall.
Okay.
But it fixes it.
I use it on bass clarinet, but not B flat clarinet.
Say again.
I use it on bass clarinet.
Okay, you're doing it on bass clarinet.
Yeah.
Well, that's
it's more
fine.
Easier for me to play.
Yeah.
I personally find that double lip opens up the sound a little bit, but the cost of a lot of stability and a lot sometimes, especially as I go into the upper register and altissimo.
Okay.
So I experiment with it a little bit, but I haven't incorporated it really into my playing at all.
All right. Anyone else?
For me, it definitely helps the little bit of time that I do it.
Yes.
I can't do it for very long because it causes, just the way my mouth is shaped and everything, it causes me a lot of pain to do it. So I can only do it for a minute maybe before I have to stop.
That's what people say about. It helps me not to bite because it hurts, so I don't bite. And to me, that's not good enough. It's we'll get. Have you tried it?
Yeah, it makes my articulation sound a lot better.
Say again.
Improves my articulation.
Yeah, it improves your articulation. I wonder why. Have you looked at that?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Well, we'll start with the ladies. I've come across some things. I worked with Wright, and I found. I specifically called him in 1978 because I'd been playing since 1972 double lip. And I needed somebody who knew what they were doing, so why don't I go to the top? And so I went to him, and then I found out that it was all sort of cryptic. He hadn't analyzed it. He was a natural. He knew some things, and he was very helpful, but I had to think a lot about what to do. So let me start with you. What's your name?
Allie.
Allie?
Yeah.
Allie, when I went to, I think it was David Weber, I was interviewing him for some things. David Weber was in the NBC orchestra with Toscanini, and had a great career, and he was one of the people that taught Morales and a lot of others that Lee knows. He looked at me and he says, "How can you play double lip? Your lip is too short. Your upper lip is too short." And he told me that I wouldn't be able to play double lip. But I didn't listen to him. I stuck with it. And from what I see is that you also have sort of a short upper lip, right? And that's probably part of the problem. But usually when we're given a clarinet and somebody says, "Okay, we're going to do double lip," use the lips to keep the teeth away. You don't have to do a lot, but they say use the muscles of the lip to keep the teeth away, to keep the teeth away from the mouthpiece, basically. So when I first started, I was using the lips. I would press down with the upper lip. Is that something that you did?
Me-
Yeah. Anybody?
Yeah.
So what I found after a bit of time is that when I do it that way, it tends to displace the spot where the teeth are on the lip itself. You don't want that to move around. So when I would get tired, I would try to use more, and I would more of the upper lip, and I would find that that it would displace the teeth. You can see how that would work, right? You put your thumb or your clarinet in your mouth, and then you press down, and this can open up, and you can lose that place. So your embouchure is different constantly. So I came up with something that I find interesting, which is rolling the lips. And the ladies here should have a good knowledge of how to do this. You put on lipstick, right?
Sometimes.
What do you do when you put on lipstick?
Yes.
All right, guys, give them your lipstick. We'll put it on. So what you do when you put on lipstick after you've got it on is you go like this. In other words, you roll your lips, right? You just roll the lips in and out. And that's why whenever you, if you Google orbicularis oris, which is what this is, the muscles, it'll say, it's commonly known as the kissing muscle, okay? Because it goes to kiss somebody that you love and who usually isn't in the family, and then kissing grandmom, right? So you want to, when we play double lip, you want to play around with this idea of kissing grandmom. I don't know if you're going to be able to live with that for a long time without saying, no, I don't think I'll do this anymore. But give it a try. Put it in your mouth and just roll. Don't press down. Just roll those lips in. And don't blow. Don't have to play. You get that feel?
Mm-hmm.
Now, while you're doing that, what happens in the corners?
They automatically come in.
Say,
They automatically come in, right?
do they? That's interesting. Good. The corners all of a sudden are activated. And the corners go in like this. You can press as much as possible and not hurt your sound if you're doing it that way. Okay? But if you start to go like this, it's the eating thing. And the trouble with clarinet and saxophone and bass clarinet is that whatever you put in your mouth, there's this primal thing where you
Want to chew.
you want to chew, you want to eat. I mean, yeah, that's it's going to be in there, whether you're thinking about it consciously or not. So if you roll the lips and let all of the work happen in the corners, have some fun and just play some notes. Let's everybody just play a C and do that so there's not as much chaos.
Which C do you want, clarion or chalumeau?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
I would say, if you haven't done a lot of double lip playing, use the low C, okay? And just try to get that feeling of where you're rolling the lips and the corners are being activated. Go ahead. Notice something you might not have, but when you roll the lips, what does it do here? Try it again. Just all play piano and just roll the lips, and what does it do to the jaw? Okay, we had a couple of comments here so far. It opens up the jaw. Did you find that? Did anybody find that? That you're actually, in a way, unhinging the biting mechanism until you get tired and the muscles aren't working here, and then you start to bite again. But if you do a bite down on the mouthpiece, even with the lips, you're opening up that primal urge for the jaw to close up. But rolling the lips and using the corners, it makes it more difficult to bite down.
Another thing that I noticed is a lot of times with clarinet, I'm trying to think about how to get my chin to be flat and out of the way instead of muffling the reed. When I roll my lips in, it just does that automatically.
So, what was the last thing you said?
When I roll my lips in, it gets my chin out of the way automatically, whereas normally it's something that I have to think about a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with double lip. It's usually this happens. Why do we need this to happen?
Because it kind of muffles the reed a little bit when your chin starts pushing into it.
Yeah, I mean, why? It's very interesting, but what is the function of the chin coming down like that? Anybody? Because Mitchell Lurie did not play that way. Stanley Drucker did not play that way.
They didn't have a pointed chin or a flat chin.
Well, they didn't. I don't think they tried.
Because sometimes in an embouchure, I'll see students that their chin muscle will be kind of pointed out, like there'll be a little, I don't want to call it an air pocket, but it will kind of look like this, right? And so, I've always been taught to have a flat chin, right, that's parallel to the floor. So I'm not down like this, but I'm like this,
Yes.
and the instrument is at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
Right. But I flatten the chin, and then I pull the corners in as if you're eating a piece of sour candy or you're kissing someone.
Second.
So the way I teach embouchure is, in order to bring the corners in, I tell students to act like they're eating a piece of sour candy, because when something's sour, we go, ooh, like that. And so we have that pucker muscle, right? Kind of like the same thing about, you say kissing grandma, I say eating a piece of sour candy. It's something that makes those muscles go
Yes.
ooh like that.
Yeah,
But I've always been taught to have a flat chin,
yeah, me
you
too.
know.
But
so
we don't think about it,
we don't.
about why we do that exactly. And then you see that there are some really very successful and good clarinet players that don't necessarily do that. But if you notice that when you play double lip, it automatically sets that up.
Yeah.
When you do it correctly, it just sets that up. I had a student that this was years ago. I was trying to get her to play double lip, and she didn't want to do it. You know, I heard and this and that. And one lesson she came and she said, "How do you play B flat and get a good sound?" And I thought, well, let's see. You do this, and then you open this up, and then the sinuses and all of this stuff. And then I stopped and I said, well, why don't you play B flat with double lip? And she did, and she sounded so good that she never went back to single.
I would say with many of my students that are having trouble with articulation, a lot of times there's a lack of stability with the mouthpiece. Like sometimes the embouchure muscles are not engaged around the mouthpieces, and so I could just pull the instrument right out of their mouth.
Right.
And so I'll have them play double lip because I know once they play double lip, they've got some stability between their right thumb and their embouchure muscles, and it's harder for me to pull the instrument out of their mouth. So I know that those muscles are engaged.
Right.
But I feel like whenever a student is struggling with articulation and they play double lip, it not only improves the articulation, but it improves the resonance in the sound.
Absolutely.
Immediately.
Right, because
And I
they're
don't know
not
why-
they're not biting.
Right, and is that the reason why? Is the reason the clarinet has more resonance in the tone is because we're opening up to allow those overtones to kind of come out?
Right. Absolutely. So once you've got this idea, the whole thing for me with playing the clarinet now that I've learned from spending a lifetime trying to do this double lip thing is that it's not terribly difficult to play double lip. It's all of the prerequisites, and I wrote some of them down here in this paper.
Yeah, they all have it. They all
Yeah.
have that.
So it's
if you want to go through it,
to have a mouthpiece that is not terribly open, to have a reed, that's the most important thing. The reed has to be balanced, both sides. This one needs a little help. It would be easier to play if everything is in line. And especially with double lip, because as you know, Allie, that you're going to hurt yourself if you have to push, if you have to squeeze anything to make it happen, especially when you come up here. That's the hardest thing to go to if you're not considering balance. Everything is balance. I'm hoping that I get all of this in a decent order for you. The big complaint that I put down there is that it's too loose, right? It's too loose. That means that you're not biting, and that you're not inhibiting the reed. This is physics. The whole thing is physics. I don't know. You probably teach this, but McLean taught this. and that you take as much mouthpiece in as the mouthpiece is open, as the reed leaves the mouthpiece. If you take too little, no matter what you do, you're going to squeeze it. If you take too much, it's hard to control. Even though McLean says that you can take as much mouthpiece as you want. But McLean taught to put the lower lip where the mouthpiece, where the reed leaves the mouthpiece.
So that's about 1/3 of the beak. So I usually say, if this is our space, I break it into thirds, and I tell them 1/3.
Yes.
To put 1/3 of the mouthpiece.
But if you've got if you're playing on a really open mouthpiece, then you'll have to take it to that place. So blowing. Let's see, the tongue, the corners.
Can you, I'm sorry to interrupt, how many of you know what an open mouthpiece is? We've talked about this, right? You understand the tip opening is either open or closed, right? So with a more open mouthpiece, you play a what kind of reed?
Soft.
Yes. If you have a closed mouthpiece, you play a...
Right.
Hard.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that everybody understands
Sure.
that.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you.
no, no, it's good. You, like, mine's about a 108, right? 108. What's your tip opening of your mouthpiece?
What's my what?
Tip opening of your mouthpiece.
Oh, which one?
That one.
What is that, Lee? That's about a 1, isn't it? 101?
So it's
Just
very
over a
close.
millimeter, yes.
Yeah.
I don't do anything.
And I've played on, Lee can make a mouthpiece in a sense up to a point, right? It doesn't
Yes.
matter how open it is, he can always lengthen or shorten the facing here, or the table, what do you call it, the table? So this guy can make anything play easy.
To a point, there is a point of
To a
no
point.
return where when the tip opening is so big that you really can't compensate well, and then you need a
Right.
very soft reed, but it will still always have a bite in the field.
What's your tip opening?
Now it's 108.
Yeah.
108?
Yeah,
You play saxophone too?
I do actually. Yeah.
You know, the Robert Marcellus mouthpiece, the M08, was like a 108 tip opening. Did you
108.
Did you ever know about the Marcellus?
I mean, I saw some back in the day, but
Well, that's okay as long as however the thing is made, that it doesn't make you force, which I want to say something which is dangerous. Now, all of this stuff that I'm telling you is stuff that I found out myself. So if you play around with this, like the rolling of the lips works for me fine. And then it activates this and it unhinges the jaw. So I don't bite as much. But the other thing that I'm not, I think of the Hippocratic Oath where it says do no harm. So but I'm going to lay this one out, and this might be standard. I don't know, but my feeling is that especially with double lip, you have to use the wind. Lee had a word for it. Warm, is it? Where it's like you're breathing when you want to clean your glasses.
You're fogging up warm.
And that's it. So everybody, just for fun, everybody do that. Just go and keep your hand there. Now do the same thing and close your lips, except for a little opening. it speeds up the air. And then do the same thing. This will be the third thing. And then tighten up the lower abdominal wall. That should be all you need to play the instrument, unless you're playing a reed that is probably too hard. That way, you've got your air moving, you've set the embouchure, and setting the embouchure speeds up the air a little bit, and then you play from the abdominal wall. Give that a try on, if you want, on the C again, or whatever note. Don't change the note, just play one note.
So,
So-
Russ, I have a question.
Yeah.
So is it possible to roll your lip too much on the upper part?
You have to find out what's comfortable. You have to find out what works for you, and maybe this doesn't. I have no clue.
Well, I like what you're saying about using the muscle to kind of pucker up, right, to engage these muscles.
Well, it's not I don't look at it as a pucker. I look at it as, I can't get rid of the image of what women do when they put lipstick on, and then they roll it to make it.
Right.
And so you don't need to press any more than
Well, that's
that.
what I think I've been doing, is putting too much upper lip, taking in too much. I don't do my lipstick like that.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
you're
And
talking about-
that's another thing, is that I ran into somebody that says, "Oh, you only take an eighth of an inch of this." No, that doesn't help. That's not very helpful. You have to find what works for you, what's comfortable, what sounds good, so that you're using the corners. You're using the avicularis oris in the correct way, where you're actually. It's the kissing muscle, right? Where you're actually using it this way and not this way. Because there's another muscle that's right here, which is called the depressor septi nasi. How about that? That when you got a cold and you do that, it flares the nostrils. You don't want to use that. You want to avoid that. So when you're pressing down, you're usually you're making that muscle work. So it needs to be as the whole idea of this is to make the playing as easy as possible. And so once you've got the air going, there's an interesting idea about, I studied with some people that only suggested the bottom, the lower part of the abdominal wall. You push from here. But then, when I started looking into it, the abdominal wall is from here to here. And I studied a great oboist's audio recordings, Tabuteau, Marcel Tabuteau. Do you have those?
I have the Sound and Motion book by
Yes.
McGill,
Right.
David McGill, and
There's-
he talks about the tablet.
There's also another one that Boston Records put out that I can't remember his name. A student gave Tabuteau a tape recorder and said, okay, put your lessons down after he retired from Philadelphia. And there was one thing that he did that really made it interesting for me, and that he was talking about going from a low note to a high note, right? And making it smooth. Maybe it's harder on the oboe, I don't know. But he actually did this. And this is, this 2 generations ago, they were pretty cryptic. And he says, okay, you have to go down on the first note, on the low note, and then up, up, up to the high note. And then he said, and the work is done. So do you just think up, 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 and then play the high note? Or do you actually do what he says, how he demonstrated it, which was up, 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 like that? It's even better with a French accent, I must say. So, in other words, my feeling was he was using the entire abdominal wall. So you're actually playing from the body. And this idea of the soft air or the warm air, and then you actually energize it from here and play. Makes that make much more sense. And also in the McLean article, this is the kind of thing that just drove me nuts. When I was first starting out in this, it says, progress will be slow, but the embouchure will respond and eventually will automatically prepare and support the change in lip pressure and resistance. What does that mean? Automatically prepare. Okay, so I want more from him. What do you do to automatically prepare? Is it, do you have to, when you go to a higher note, do you have to use this a little bit more? Do you do something here at the corners? I think you do, or let's say I think you can.
Well, you have more resistance the higher you go, right?
Right.
When you're adding the register key, you're adding resistance.
Right.
Which means we have to have a more focused stream of respiration of air, correct?
Right.
We have to have that air flowing, but we also have to hear and voice those notes in our head.
To hear what?
Voicing the notes in our head. So
Yes.
if I'm playing a low C and I want to play a high C,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing that note in my head. I'm also preparing a little bit to kind of use my embouchure muscles to control,
Yes.
as well as the air pressure, to get that note so it doesn't do this. Right? So
Right.
there's a lot of control we have to exercise.
Right. So there's the preparation.
Right.
There's
I
the
guess that's-
preparation. But you can use this,
Mhm.
to play a high note. with a reed that's a little wet. The way I play now, personally, I'm sort of up in here with that. When I play, and I can find myself going up on here. And also there's a preparation that happens here. But the trouble with the preparation with young students, especially, is that when you play the higher notes, you tend to press the reed, right?
Yeah.
You tend to press the reed so it creates the biting.
Creates a biting and then it creates a pressure squeak, right? How many of you have gone for the high D, but you get the overtone above? Yes? Right? Yeah. So we talk about voicing a lot, especially when we're on those notes that are a little bit unstable, like altissimo, E, F, right? Especially E. I think E is a pretty unstable altissimo note. Can we all agree? Get an amen? Yes. Yeah. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess being a bass guy too, what I think about with high notes and pressure and stuff, you know, when you're biting, you're changing your facing. You're trying to make a closer facing so that there's less travel distance for the reed, so it will speak easier. So you take it and you push in. And it's unfortunately an incredibly easy thing for us to do, so it becomes instinctive to just bite, push. Now you're facing, if it was a 108, now it's a 103 or a 102, which is a way of kind of getting to it, but a bad way, because you're torquing the reed and you're going to get the unwanted upper partials.
Yes. That's what we call it. We
Because
call
of
it a
that.
squawk.
Yeah, a squeak. But it's so, say, it goes back to what Russell was saying, we're used to putting something in our mouth and chewing it and eating it, and you put this in your mouth and we want to bite down on it, and we do. Everybody, I mean, so many people do that. And that's where the double lip can, if you approach it with these kind of things, we can counteract that.
Two things in regard to that. That is that you're playing from the body. Your sound is coming from your body in that sense. So when you feel like you need to press a little more of this, but there's also this elastic band you have here. You can do more with the corners at that point. And you can do as much as you want here. Squeezing, in a way, squeezing this way. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about, just try to crush the mouthpiece doing that. No. It all has to do with the sound that you want to make and how you're, what you're playing and how you want it to sound, and then not just go ahead and force something. But you've got this, the corners, we always tend to do this, but it needs to be from here. You can tighten up the corners as you go up. And but there was something that I wanted to say that was really important. I forgot it. Let me see if I can jog my memory. Oh yeah. Back to specifically double lip, but this also is helpful. That doesn't sound too bad, right? It sounds pretty good, but there's a problem with it. It's,
Quacky.
the reed is unstable. It sounds good. Now, what I'm doing, now I want to have you do this one at a time. Do we have enough time?
Yeah. We have about 20 minutes.
Okay. I want you just to, we'll start with you, and play a high C,
Double lip.
if you can.
Uh-huh.
Then, while you're doing that, very lightly and just a little, not huge, just drop the jaw just a little bit. So you see, you get a different pitch if you drop it just a little. You try it. Okay, that's more of a balanced read. See, and then if the sound stops, it's not balanced. Don't try to make it change the pitch. Okay. I don't know. I'm not sure about bass clarinet if it's the same dynamic.
I mean, there's so much more real estate that we're dealing with
Say again?
up there. I mean, it's such a bigger, it has to be a much bigger opening, but it opens up a lot more possibilities
Yeah,
because
yeah,
there's just
yeah.
so much tip
Okay.
opening to deal with. Yeah.
Let's try it. Alan?
Rachel. Sorry.
And just let the jaw just drop a little. Did you? Can you? What? Okay, so this read I tried to make it work. Sounds good. I can't use it because it just flaps all over the place. This came from Harold Wright, this exercise, or it's not an exercise, but this test came from him to find a balanced reed. And it doesn't stop you. I use it on the high C and on the G. To me, that's even a little too much. And it doesn't stop you from going. You can still do that with, if you need to, with a reed that's really balanced and doesn't have that looseness, or what shall we call it?
Elastic. It's very loose, elasticity.
I forget where my, where's my, now I'm getting my reeds on.
It's like when your pantyhose don't work anymore, right? It's just like, ugh. No more support in the pantyhose. Guys, sorry, I don't know.
So, anyway,
You guys don't wear hose?
okay, the idea with that is that when you're picking reeds, that you don't want it to be able to become loose when you're playing.
Saggy.
When you're playing with the double lip. You don't want it to lose the pitch so much, because what's that going to do for you when you get tired? It's going to make, number one, it's going to make you tired, because when the embouchure gets a little bit tired, you're going to have an awful lot of trouble keeping the pitch up. But if you've got a reed that actually, or a couple, no, that one's really good. If I really want it to dip, I can do that. But it's not going to tire my embouchure. So the trouble with double lip playing is that there's not much to it. It's really fairly easy, but you have to be able to do all of the prerequisites. You have to work a little more on reeds to make sure that you're not playing a reed that's going to be a little too loose in the pitch, one that holds the pitch. There's another thing that Buddy said, that Harold Wright said, that I thought about a lot. He said the sound has to be there. And when I was studying with him, I was only in my 20s, and of course I didn't ask questions. Do your students ask questions?
Mm-hmm. They do. And they should.
And Jascha Heifetz, the great violinist of the 20th century, was doing a master class at USC, and I forget the guy's name. One of his students said about Mr. Heifetz, he had a question, and Heifetz said, "This is no place to ask a question." And whereas most people would, because Heifetz was sort of mean, or could be, but this guy really had the chutzpah. And he said, well, Mr. Heifetz, saying I'm not in the habit of seeing you socially, when is a good time to ask you a question? So it's so important. And I didn't ask Wright what he meant by that. The sound has to be there, but that's what this is with the reed and the mouthpiece. And I must say, there was as far as questions go, when I was working with him, I went backstage at Tanglewood once, and I asked him if I could play his setup. And he said, no. And then the next week, I asked him the same question, could I play your setup? And he said, no. And I said, but I have to experience what the difference is between your sense of resistance and mine, with all of the things he was saying to me. And he said, here. And he gave me his clarinet, and so I was able to play his mouthpiece, and it was so easy. It was just amazing how easy it was.
Don't you think when the equipment, when you're able to play with ease and you're not fighting your equipment, then you can focus on the phrase.
That's right.
You can just focus on the music. If all that is working and you're not fighting it, or it's too resistant, or it's too inflexible, and it feels good, then you can just focus on the task at hand. Otherwise, the clarinet's playing you, and you're not playing the clarinet.
That's right. And that's for another talk, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I think sometimes some really amazing players out there, everything is built into their equipment. So when you hear them play, they sound amazing and everything, but it doesn't resonate. The sound doesn't resonate. You know what I'm talking about. It doesn't resonate to where you hear this vocal quality in the tone.
Right, so it has to, if the sound is there, and if your reed is balanced, which means you have to work a little bit more on reeds, and make sure that you've got what you want. And then if you can't, then you have to find a way to make it work within the situation, you know, because we all are not going to have the greatest reed in the world. So we have to do something to be able to overcome that. But if we can do the correct balancing, then it's going to be a piece of cake.
Yeah,
It's
you,
going to be
you and
very
I
easy.
talked about that last week, I think, just even in the Brahms quintet, the color shading that you can do now because you have the equipment allows you to play with ease, so you can just focus on making the phrase.
Yeah, Lee touched up my mouthpiece and he put a little more hold in the
Yes.
sound.
Yes.
He put just the right amount of hold in it, and now I can just set, relax, and just blow,
let go.
and it goes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But you still have to have a good reed.
Well, of course, yes.
How many do you have in rotation? How many reeds do you have in there? 10?
I have 5
Okay.
that I actually play.
Who's got at least 5? 6? 7?
Ah,
8? Okay,
that's good.
yeah. They know. They've been trained.
Good for you.
So, well, great. I think this is incredibly informative. I will tell you that I've used double lip on every student that's in my studio.
Good.
I do feel like it's very helpful for articulation. When a student is struggling with articulation,
Yes.
I feel like it fixes it immediately, but now I have a little bit better idea of why.
Mm.
And I think that will help my student. We're doing this articulation study of the double tonguing. One of the really nice byproducts of it is everybody's single tongue speed and quality is
Yeah.
improving. And I think that's great, but I also think my students that are still, maybe they're anchor tonguing, or maybe I have one student who's tonguing with the roof of their mouth.
They're doing what with it?
They're tonguing with the roof of
Oh,
their
yes.
mouth.
Yeah.
But we're slowly getting them to
Need an X-ray machine.
Yeah. Well,
We're
we're
working
working
on
on
that.
it.
Ah.
An MRI machine.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming.
Well, it is a great remedial technique. But there are a couple of more right things. He said, again in passing, when I first, well, not in passing, but when I first showed up, I drove from here to Tanglewood in my orange VW bus in 1978. And I had a lot of time to think, so when I got there, I had originally written to him about saying, okay, I want to study with you to learn double lip. He said, sure, come. And so when I got there, I said, I've decided that I really don't want to play double lip, that I'll just do single. And he says, then I won't teach you. I said, no, but it hurts, and it's not easy. And he says, look, if somebody held a gun to your head and said, play double lip, you'd do it. Which is what he had just done.
Wow. We have to